Today I'm gonna tear down this one. Hey Jay. Jay. Jay.
What?
We got work to do.
Yeah, I'm playing World of Warships. Yeah. World of Warships is the free-to-play naval strategy game where you command the most iconic and famous warships from World War I and World War II, recreated with stunning detail and accuracy. Build your fleet while participating in various game types while upgrading your ship's arsenal along the way. New players who sign up using my link below will receive an exclusive starter pack to get you up and running quickly by receiving 7 days premium time, 1 million credits, 300 doubloons, and the Tier 5 premium ship, the Exeter.
So what are you guys waiting for? Start sinking ships with World of Warships by heading to the description below and getting your freebies. There's actually some parts out of here that I need for Skunkworks. So this is actually a Skunkworks build vlog, but this is my 4090 that I have to take out, and it's pretty, I live in a dusty environment, okay? If you look at the top, you can see how it's solid up here. The front is the same way. So one of my issues with this design was the fact that a lot of hot air does tend to just sort of circulate because there's glass right here, and that's just a gap between the glass and the front panel and the side panel and up here in the corner. But a lot of that hot air just kind of goes round and round and round. So something else I want to do today is not just take this system apart and take what I need out of it. For instance, the graphics card, some of these fittings. This distro plate on the bottom is still useful in other builds, but it's just a generic distro plate that was designed to fit within here. This rear plate right here with the pump, this is useful in another system, so I'm going to take that. The screen will not be getting transferred over to Skunkworks. If I do put a screen in there, it's probably a 7-inch. We're going bigger, we're going with a 7. But more importantly, this loop has been together now since February, so about 8 months. And I want to check and see, this is my first time using the Mystic Fog. So as you can see, it does have a little bit of like a suspended particle kind of a deal in there. I did notice that my graphics card temps were on the higher side of what I would be expecting, at least from the higher side of what I thought the temps were in this initially. So I'm seeing like 62 to 65C on the core and like 75C to almost 80C on the hotspot. I'm like, that is way hotter than I'm expecting to see on a 4090 with two 360s. However, I don't know how much of that is the fact that in my gaming room it can get pretty warm because I don't have a very good, like, I have a regular AC vent for a house, but it's not designed to have this much electronics in one room without a proper HVAC of its own. And I don't know if maybe it was starting to clog. CPU temps have been fine, but I don't know if the microfins on the GPU are maybe getting clogged. So today I'm gonna take this apart, get the GPU out, take the GPU block face off. I'm gonna deface it. The other thing too is we can start by checking out my plugs. So this is a CableMod V1 adapter, and this has been in here ever since they came out. And I did check it periodically. There we go. Yeah, see, everything's fine. It's just the clip is so far recessed down like in there that I have to use this tool to get it out. Just so people can see, at least mine has been completely fine. That's not to say that people haven't had problems. Obviously people have had problems, but everything on the GPU side, looking pretty good. No issues on mine. So again, it's not been easy to determine what is and what isn't causing them to happen. There's still a lot of wiggle in there, but anyway, draining this loop, I have this 90 swivel right here, and this is just the drain plug that you push it in that lets flow happen. So what I'll do is I'll be putting a tube up in here that'll let air in, and then this will be open into the bottle to let the fluid out, and then I'll have to assist it by pushing some air in there to allow it to help its way out. So at some point too, there was a small leak that developed from up here, because look, you can see it dripped on the heatsink there and dripped down right there, and there was a little puddle of it right here on the GPU, and I cleaned that off a long time ago. I noticed that and I went, well, it's dry, it doesn't look active, so I just wiped it off and kept going, which is, and when I kept going, I mean, I did that like 2 months ago. Basically what I was looking for is like, will it continue? And it didn't, so I don't know why it dripped a couple of drops and then never did it again. That's not normal. I love the way physics works. That's going up, by the way. I want to point that out. That's going up. That's going against gravity. So this actually works pretty well. As long as you have somewhere for the loop to exit and somewhere for the loop to enter and it's sealed off everywhere else, I just taped the hose down onto this, turned it on, and let it go until I was no longer getting tons of fluid coming out. So now I'm just getting these residual drops, which is fine. There's always gonna be some residual in there. But you could actually let this go for a while and you would dry out the loop entirely. But I don't need to dry out the loop. I just wanted to get the fluid out so I could take this apart without worrying about, oh, I undid this hose and guess what? There was a low spot with coolant hiding and then drips everywhere. Ow. So, whatever. All right, let's get, ew. It does act like it's, well, basically like we're harvesting bull semen, but that's besides the point. So there's a little bit of the remnants of the drip right there. Okay, I'll get the rest of these fittings and stuff out later. I need to now open this block up and see what we got. I'm definitely curious as to what is inside there. This is honestly where the clear blocks really come in handy because then you can just see in there. Okay. We had pretty good mount. I mean, there's some areas there where maybe it looks like it's a little bit lifted. That could be leading to some of the hotspot temps. So, we were definitely making contact on the memory. Everything's squished down on the VRMs. Okay, so let me clean the blocks up and then we'll get this thing apart and see what the inside looks like. Yeah. Hey, that's actually pretty clean. Cool. So that means my warm temperatures, warmer than average temperatures, had to have had nothing to do with the fluid and everything to do with probably the airflow circulation in the case that I was concerned about, and just the average temperature in my room will get pretty warm. Cool, so let me clean this up, put it back together, clean the block up, and I can go ahead and go forward now with using the same fluid that I want to use. All right, I'll thermal paste it up and clean. Now we can finally get the GPU in here. I can't see it. I missed. What? Why is it actually like legit not fitting? How the hell? That was easy. Ooh, jeez, that's so much heavier than I expected it to be. Oh God, don't break the RGB. Oh my God, heavy, heavy. The GPU's not even mounted down. I can't. Okay. ARGB wire got caught. The stupid like daisy chain like barbed itself on the grommet hole. So it wouldn't let me pull it out. Okay. There we go. See, this case is super easy to work on. All right, so I'm gonna slide this brick of frickin' computer back in here and then we'll talk about the new mid plate. Not new mid plate, but the mid distro plate and the holes I had to make. There we go. Whew. My God. Why do I have to build such heavy computers? Why can't I be like Phil and be like, small computers are better? All these cables, but I'm only gonna see like that much of it. It kind of stinks, but could have probably just gotten away with doing an extension than a whole cable or whatever. So because this is a 90-degree fitting, or a 24 pin right there, and it's recessed slightly, this is kind of in the way. It's gonna end up pushing the motherboard up slightly, which is gonna kind of suck, but I feel like I should actually loosen the screws on the right side of the motherboard. That way it can sort of tilt up a little bit on its own. But again, I don't understand ASUS's design of, let's make it EATX wide with 90-degree connectors on the side. Another stupid design. They made it so that you can't get the lower cover off without taking the GPU out. And guess what's down there? SSD M.2 mounts. Is it gonna make it all the way? Ooh. We're good. I don't know what that was. I think the fitting right here was caught on one of the little things because EPS power is fine. It's in though. I will never in a million years get that unplugged without having to pull the motherboard back. This is probably one of the few cases it could actually work in. Yeah. I'm just forcing it, screw it. The 3.0s are in. They pushed the grommet out the backside. See, they did the thing. They pushed it out, see? Oh, it bends it so much. Okay, but that's all the way down, so. That's what I should have bent that like a bow. You would have never seen it. I only need a couple millimeters. Too late now, but you could still remove it. It's too late now, but there's still plenty. I have spoken. I was concerned that one GPU in here would look silly because this build has always had 3 GPUs up until 3-way SLI died with the 20 series, and I had 2 2080s in here. Yeah, it doesn't look bad actually. I'm pleased. It helps that I filled it out so much with this one. Okay, let's talk about the mid plate. So you can see there's some extra holes in here now. One of the things I did off camera was I took the mid plate out. Well, first I put in the distro plate that came in from Singularity. I'll show you guys that in a sec. Marked where the holes need to be. So we've got 2 more pass-through holes here and 2 more pass-through holes here. And then I drilled them and then repainted it. That way I have a place to put the fittings through that need to go down. These are the original holes right here for when I had one coming out of the res and then one coming back up to the GPU. They do it a bit different. So this distro plate's not one they've ever actually like sold or put out onto the market. And I just noticed there's a fitting that goes right here. You guys will see in a sec that's touching the pump just enough to where it's caused a little scratch right there, but you won't notice it because the fitting will be right there. Let me get the plate and I'll show you. So here's the distro plate. They just kind of randomly put ports. They didn't, okay, so there's actually a little bit more backstory to this. They do have a vertical distro plate as well, kind of like I had in the 925 that had a dual pump D5 designed for dual loops and all that. But obviously I didn't use that because I wanted to use these reservoirs sticking out into the system more, otherwise this would still look pretty empty. So this is what they came up with. They sent it to me. They said we could tweak the design if I want. I'm not gonna tweak it. I'm gonna use this one because I actually got it to work just fine. We have a pass-through right here for our GPU wire, which lines up right here, which kind of sucks that it's not more lined up directly with the GPU because it'd be neat to have the wire be straight. It'll be kind of to a curve, but whatever. In here, down into the lower compartment through there, so you can see why I had to drill the holes. So basically I just took the bottom acrylic piece, put it in place, and used it as a template of where to mark the holes for my mid plate there. And then it will go into one radiator, come back up into here, back across here, down again into another rad, back up through here, and then into the GPU. And then the GPU is gonna actually have a tube that has to come back across into here somewhere, which there will be a tube crossing over the loop, which is kind of unfortunate. Not that big of a deal. There'll be a lot of horizontal tubing going on in here. So we have 2 RGBs in this. We have one that goes basically nearly the entire length of the front right here. And then we have this short one in the back. And it'll be neat because this will shine up where I have the other lights behind here. So that area right here is gonna be pretty illuminated nicely. And of course the reservoirs light up. There's lighting around the plate, which I've already showed you guys. So let me get this in there. It's just gonna rest in there. It's actually not gonna be mounted down. Even though it has these holes right here, and they gave me some like hardware, there's nowhere in here default where you would screw it down. So I talked to Daniel, he said, yeah, they just leave it resting in there. I'm gonna be drilling a hole right here and then using this grommet for the RGB for the mid plate to come through, because it coming up and out of here just looks stupid. So I'm gonna be putting it right here. Nick's gonna be holding the vacuum to catch as much of the metal shavings as possible. Some will still be here. We'll vacuum up the rest. Yeah, you shouldn't do this with all your electronics and stuff in the case, but at least penetrating from the backside shouldn't have as much, whatever.
Mess?
Yeah, no. This is gonna sound very sexual, but I did it dry. You should always use lube when it's aluminum, it's not too bad, but you always wanna use lube. Be considerate. Oh, too small. I didn't think about the fact that the grommet adds height. There we go. Okay, so down here at the bottom, where I was talking about with the fitting that's kind of scratched the pump right there, So I can screw this in. It barely fits. But once I get that in, then I can just slide that back over where I need it. Like the plate, like I said, literally is just chilling in there, but once all the fittings and stuff are in, it doesn't move. It stays pretty stuck. So here's what it looks like with the tube. So it's just a 90, this is the out of the pump. It's a 90 into here to a 90 to a 90 down through there, just to go back out right there. It's designed to fill up the space with something interesting to look at. It's not necessary. Now I had debated not using that at all and plugging it and drilling my own hole somewhere over here, but I still would have needed the 90 in the tube and all that. So I just decided to use the one that was already here without any chance of potentially damaging this distro plate. So here's the thing, I have two choices. I can just connect these two holes underneath with two fittings to like 1, 2, 3, and then just have it continue. I honestly feel like, normally what I would do, as you saw with those two holes, is I would go down, go through both rads, and then come back up down here. I feel like I wish Daniel had just connected this solid, so it just had this turn rather than having to go down and then back up. There's no reason to have it go down, back up again twice. That just doubles the fittings and stuff necessary for that particular area. So I have a choice. I either have it go to a rad, to a distro plate, back to a rad, back up, or I just, I don't know, I connect it. So that's the part I'm not sure on how I want to do it. I'm still going to more than likely do soft tubing down on the bottom for the sake of simplicity and having some maneuverability to be able to move the rad and stuff out when I need to. My concern with doing that is I'm adding a different material to the loop as well. So whether I'm using vinyl or I'm using the black rubber tubing that EK has or whatever, my concern, and I've dealt with this in the past, is sometimes the tubing can leach some plasticizer. So that's what makes the tubing soft and pliable. It's something they're called a plasticizer. And that can sometimes break down and make its way into the loop. I didn't use any soft tubing with the EK Mystic Fog, so I have no idea how it reacts to it, to be honest. And that's my only concern, is if I use a black tubing and it somehow leaches something, is it gonna make the coolant look darker? So I'm a little concerned about that. I think I could still use rigid tubing, to be honest, mostly from the 280 side, to be able, I've done it in the past where I had rigid tubing down here. By going with a long run of tube, it actually gave me some deflection where I could actually still have the thing swing away and have access to it and put it back. I might still do that just so I have single type of material in all of this. The next thing I'm gonna do right now is pretty boring. I'm gonna take a lot of the fittings out of there that I need. And then I'll start figuring out this bottom loop. I'll show you some of the other runs I've already kind of started working on. All right, so now that we're done stuffing our faces from lunchtime, I'm gonna work on this loop some more today. We'll come back and sort of show you what I come up with as I get there. A couple of things I want to point out. I don't remember if I said this in other videos. So this is my drain. This is where the drain is for the CPU loop. This is the GPU loop. You might be like, Jay, why do you have two fittings at the bottom but also one at the top? One, just so that it has some symmetry look for the other side, and two, that's gonna be just a fill port. So I can put my nozzle, this guy right here, can just sort of shove it down in there and fill that way. So I just did that way it doesn't look so empty. When it didn't have it on there, it really looked stark compared to this one having something on top. All right, let's work on this thing. Okay, so the CPU loop is done. GPU loop is partially done. Got the fittings going through the bottom. There are fittings in the bottom now. They're not connected to the radiators yet. Okay, so here's a loop order for the GPU. Out here, in through here, through the distro plate, down, radiator up, through here, down, radiator up through here, into the GPU inlet, through the GPU, and then I still have to do the return line. I figure out how I'm gonna get from here to here cleanly. I don't know if I'm gonna come across the top, over, and down. I might do that. I think it would look better than being like in front of these tubes. There's a lot going on here, so I think right across here. And being in front of the reservoirs will look kind of terrible, but it's what I got. The old Skunkworks at least came down underneath the pumps and went across, but I didn't have a distro plate like this to deal with. And then what I did on the old loop from Skunkworks is I went out from the reservoir to the GPU, through the GPU, and then down through and back up. So everything was mostly under. Anyway, CPU loop, out on the left through here, into the CPU block, through the monoblock, out. There's a lot of fittings kind of going on here. I like the busy fitting look, especially with this satin titanium. I think it goes really well with the black. Anyway, through the rad, out of the rad here, and then in the top. I want to do a pressure test right now on the CPU loop, but I'm a little concerned that these fittings on the top right here, these like plastic fittings that AlphaCool installs, they don't have an O-ring. So I don't know if they seal. Like if they don't seal, then I'm not going to be able to Oh, and then obviously this is my drain right here for the CPU loop, which works really well because that's the lowest point of the loop with the exception of what gets stuck in the pump and maybe right here. But anyway, I don't know if those fittings actually seal, which would be odd if they didn't, but there's no O-ring on them. So let's see if this thing will even hold air. Okay, so it is losing air slowly. See it? Losing air. I honestly believe it's coming from those top fittings. So I suspect because AlphaCool doesn't expect you to ever have your system flipped upside down for any reason, that those don't need an O-ring to seal. They were kind of loose. I was able to tighten it up a little bit. I'm just curious now if the leaking rate changes, and I know that's what they are. I'm just trying to narrow it down to being those. You might be like, well, Jay, just put regular plugs up there. I can't because AlphaCool put them so close together that one torque fitting, which is bigger than your average fitting, is making it so that I could not possibly put any fittings next to it. Kind of a design flaw in a way. Probably fine with smaller fittings, honestly, but this is what I've got. But it is for sure leaking. This is the scary part. Now it's, do we just assume it's that? We put fluid in there and we find it dripping from somewhere else? I would like to assume it's the plugs. I know they have no O-rings. I don't think it's any of my fittings because I went through and really tightened these up. Now I'm not gonna fill the loop yet because I'm not 100% positive I don't have to take the motherboard out for some unseen reason yet. I would love to get that loop going, but it's too soon. So let me get the cross pipe going to the other GPU pump and then we'll probably wrap up this video. So this is pretty much all the tubing in the upper compartment. So I've already showed you the CPU loop. Here's the GPU loop. Here's the return line coming. Like I said, it's kind of this like unwritten rule in water cooling that if you have multiple loops, or even if you don't cross over pipes. Some people don't like the way that looks. I personally like it. This has like a circuit pattern kind of a feel to it, especially since every fitting has a little circle. So it's like a little solder ball. But anyway, I did initially play around with coming out of here and coming down over and up. But I didn't, and initially I flipped this to where this was straight and then it was a 90 there, but it put the tube literally right across here, which looked clean, but then it blocks my drain. So unless I was gonna be like, don't, which would look really stupid, I didn't do that. I also chose not to do a double bend to come down here along the floor and back up, because this would just then become one big catch for the fluid. If I ever have to drain the loop, that would just be a full pipe of something that won't want to drain. So this will allow me to actually get it back to the reservoir pretty cleanly. So that's what the top looks like. I'm pretty happy with it. The last thing we're gonna do today, at least in the top section, is especially for the fronts right here, we're gonna put the stickers that Phil made to cover up the Be Quiet logos there, simply because of the fact that the logos do not go with my theme. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even have to be perfectly centered. If I'm off a little bit, it doesn't matter. You're just not gonna notice it because the orange lettering is what really stands out that I don't like, unless I was gonna do like a orange theme in here somehow, which I'm not planning on doing. I have to take the front fans back out anyway too, because I have to do the stickers on the opposite side, but I also need to repaint it right here. It got a little scratched one time. So we're not gonna do that today though. These are little things that I just do off camera. Okay, that's a million times better. Such a busy loop. I'm looking forward to getting the tempered glass panel for it too. And I'm also, it shows you how much things have changed since this case was made, because this really does come close to the side panel. It's also probably a good thing that I have the 90s, because I probably wouldn't have been able to make this bend very easily either. The irony that a case back in the day, people were like, that's too big, is almost not big enough even for this. With this many horizontal lines, it's hard to get them all perfectly horizontal. I'm sure there's a couple that are off by a fraction of a degree or something. But when I stand back and look at it, actually all looks, well, actually, oh, there we go. The satin titanium was definitely the right color choice. I might actually have to trim this one like a millimeter, because I do feel like it's a little bit higher, although it's possible this one's coming down slightly. But no, when I put it along the edge of the case, it's perfectly even with it. So I don't think this one's like canted. I think this one needs some adjustment. All right, that's where we're gonna end this one. I know you guys like the longer, more talking about what I'm doing type stuff. Lots of little things still happen behind the scenes. But at least we've got the majority of the loop done. Just have to do the radiators in the bottom now. And then wire it up, fire it up. Now that my personal system at home is down, I have to get this done because my streams cannot continue at home while this is happening. So, all right, we're gonna end this video. Bye.